if a girl has two kids and those two kids have different fathers, that girl has two different energies and two different reasons to come against you. Like, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but at the end of the day, her energy is a lot, she has a lot more animosity in her heart, and she also has the ability to be more sweet as well. So you have to be thoughtful of that. At the end of the day, you have to be very thoughtful of that and understand that, you know, that there's forces. You have to be thoughtful of that. You have to be thoughtful that, you know, she's gonna be she's gonna be double the sweet but double the evil as well. So that's a message for people, that for men specifically, that they call it Captain Save-A-Ho. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it, bro. You got a good heart from a wanting to be there for a woman, and that's a good thing. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, wanting to be there for a woman, especially when she's in a position of weakness, and for example, the fathers and the kids' lives are assholes or not involved, and they're just fuck boys or whatever story she made up, right? I get it. You want to be that person that comes through. Just be thoughtful as well for those men that are there for that purpose. Just understand, man, there's like double the animosity that she has, and it's not just one person, it's two men that she has in her heart. That it may not be good, and it may be good, but, you know, like, there's a type of animosity that you're never going to be able to take care of. You're never going to be able to fulfill. And again, there's always going to be a time frame for everything. So you may be able to, like, get a lot of respect from her, but just understand that the sweeter they come, the nastier they become if you don't live up to the standard of keeping up with what it takes to keep her sweet. And there's always going to be, like I said, men, and something I'm learning, men, this world, we live in a performance based system, and not just from a work perspective, but also from a just in general. We have to perform. We have to constantly perform in this world in order to keep up with the economy, and also with women. We have to perform. We have to always be on top of our game in order for satisfactions to be met. So at the end of the day, you're having to battle with animosity that's coming from incorrect decisions that she made. You know, and don't get me wrong, like, again, I know, and I'm speaking in general in this case, but I know for a fact that a lot of women won't admit to the fact that they fucked up. Like, if you're a person that has to take care of somebody else's kids, I want you to ask yourself, like, why is what happened? You know what I mean? Like, why is, like, what made two people get away from this chick? What made two men get away from this girl? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes us men don't logically think about stuff. Sometimes we think about the pussy. We get the pussy. We think about the actions that are taken initially, but we don't really dive deep to really ask quality questions. So it's like, one good question to ask is, if you're a father, if you are getting with a mother that has multiple kids with different fathers, a quality question would be, why did two men decide to not choose her? Now, you also got to realize, like, you know, you're not gonna get the truth from the girl. Like, you just aren't. Like, that's just a fact of life. But you really got to be thoughtful of that. It's like, okay, so um you know, like, you could ask and see what answer she gives you. But really, when you do ask, if you decide to ask her, really think about the position that she puts herself in, right? So when you do ask, again, don't expect to get the truth, but let's just say you do get the truth, which I doubt you will. Well, you'll never know, but let's just say you ask this question. I want you to pay attention to the position that she puts herself in, right? So one thing that we have to ask is like, is she putting self in a position of victim, or holding or accepting responsibility, right? So we got to ask ourselves that responsibility. So if she's like, just ask her. Don't think so much about if what she tells you is right or wrong. Think in terms of, is she accepting responsibility? Is she admitting to anything that she did wrong? Or ironically, were these two men fuckboys? You know what I'm saying? Like, really ask yourself that. It's like, okay, so this bitch is saying that this dude did this and this dude did that and cheating. They're gonna create stories, bro. And even, and pay attention to where she places herself. What position does she play? If she accepts responsibility, then she may be changed. She may have I believe people change, and there's people that probably do make shifts and just start accepting responsibility. And you'll know, like, if she really admits to areas that she fucked up. If she tells you some deep shit like, yo, I cheated and I fucked up and I was violent and, you know, I wasn't doing my part as a woman, you know, and vice versa. The man was just not providing, or, you know, he was just being lazy or whatever, or he was abusive, but both of us fucked up. If you get a girl that is genuine about her fuck ups and also the dude's fuck ups, then you just may be in a good relationship in terms of, you know, maybe that's just what you're supposed to do, is be with the woman that, you know, some people believe in being with one girl, and that's okay. You know, there's different methods to it all. But I want to do my part with helping people at least make a real decision, and helping them make an educated decision and not be bamboozled, if you will, based off trickery, right? So if a girl is not honest, you'll know based on how she positions herself, which every girl lies, every man lies, every girl lies. But I'm telling you, if a woman puts herself in a position of being super perfect and she never fucked up, and it was always about the other person that just kept lying, and just these stories that could sound very, especially from a man's perspective, when you hear, like, for example, she would tell me, one of my girls would tell me that the ex was like very abusive, right? So knowing me, you know, and if a girl knows anything about a man, they know that they want to be very protective, and a man that is not okay with that is gonna pretty much, like, you know, like, a man is not gonna be okay with that. Like, there's men that are just not cool with that, and she'll know that based on your reply. So, like, they'll use that against you. They'll use that story, and especially if you don't like it, they just make you, they can't make you do anything, but it's gonna make you feel bad. Like, it's gonna make you feel like, damn, you know what I'm saying? You don't deserve that shit. You don't deserve to get hit or abused. You're super pretty, or, you know, you seem very respectful. You seem to do everything around the house. You cook very good. Like, why would somebody hit you or abuse you, right? Well, you know, I'm not saying that abuse is a right thing, but some girls do deserve to get hit. Like, on the real, just like kids deserve to get spanked sometimes. You know, if it wasn't for law and all this shit being that you'll go to jail, personally, there's a lot of women that deserve to get smacked a couple times. Like, they just deserve it, but they abuse the law, and the fact that there's regulations in place and the law is behind them, that they just go as far as they can to push buttons, because they understand that, you know, some women are willing to take a punch into the face because they understand that the law is for them. Some women are willing to go as far as possible to see what they can get out of you, what kind of reaction they can get out of you to put you in a position of having to go in that. And the worst part is like, outside of that, there's a stigma that's stuck with you for the rest of your life if you ever hit. It's called domestic violence, and that within itself has a stigma and has its own ramifications within itself. But there's women that understand that ramification, and they're willing to go as far as man, they're willing to go really far to get you to that point. And I remember getting to the point where there was some violent scenes. Like, when I say violent scenes, like, it got to the point where, like, yeah, she almost ran me over with a car. And it wasn't just her, like, it was me just being extremely angry, and just a bunch of immaturity, a lot of immaturity, and a lot of just not being able to control. It was just like hissy fits, and just real immaturity of not being able to control ourselves internally because of a lack of understanding, a lack of communication, a lack of agreement, and a lack of both being in a place of where we weren't okay with the results of where we were, and we couldn't accept it. One person wasn't getting what they wanted, and the other person wasn't either. So that came with its own ramification. And you know, if you're a man that you I'm gonna call you Captain Save-A-Hole, or a man that you think you want to, like, you're doing good by taking care of another man's kid, again, you know, thank you. I appreciate it that there's men out there that actually, you know, for example, you know, my son's mom, you know, like, she would throw it in my face. She's like, oh, you know, her first son's dad would do stuff with my son and all this stuff. Like, she would throw that in my face. But I remember real clear that when I was with her, she would throw that in her man's face. You know what I'm saying? Like, she would throw that in her man's face. She's like, oh, you know, he does this and now with your son, you know. But to the law and to the authorities and stuff, they don't really, that's not wrong, you know. That's okay. Like, they don't consider how fucked up that is, you know. It's just that's just the world we live in, and that's how it's gonna be. But she would throw that in the other dude's face, and I remember clearly, like, yo, stop doing that shit, bro. Like, but she ain't listen. She don't give a fuck. She would make that other man feel like shit and do whatever the fuck she was doing, just getting in his mind and his thought and his heart by, like, stabbing him slowly. And she, you know, it hasn't really affected me as much because I choose to ignore a lot and I don't engage back and forth. Like, that's one thing that I used to get mad about as well. I used to get mad with the amount of, like, when she would get so upset about how the other father was or whatnot and stuff, I would get mad. I'm like, bitch, why you so involved in that? If that nigga's affecting you that much, something's fishy to me. And when the more, like, so I would, at some point at the beginning, I would tell her, stop, just stop the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna fuck with him, do that. But at the end, like, go fuck with him. If you're gonna let go of him, let go of him. But don't sit here and manipulate him and fuck with him, because it just creates, if he's creating a behavior to you, if he's getting you angry, to me, there's more to it. So like, don't, you know, if you're in a position of, like, of helping a woman and her kids, like, really be thoughtful about the type of energy that she puts towards the kid's father, and the type of way that she reacts or responds or puts that man. If she puts him in a position of belittling or acts like he's just a piece of shit, best believe that you're gonna be a piece of shit if you end up being a father to any of her kids. You're gonna be a piece of shit at some point if you don't hold up to her standards. I'm gonna move from here because I don't really fuck. It's fucking. It is what it is. Too late. Lights, bro. Está jodiendo conmigo. He parked, like, in a position where his bright ass lights were pretty much in the front of my window. So, you know, it's just annoying as fuck. But it is what it is. This is a little better. I don't got those fucking bright ass lights right in front of me. So yeah, if you're in a position of like, is she putting self in a position of victim or accepting responsibility for actions? You know what I mean? Pay attention to that. Pay attention if the girl is pay attention if the girl is actually accepted responsibility or not. That's a red flag that I wish I would have actually considered. Damn, bro, for real, I fucking hate these motherfuckers, bro. Of all places, mosquito. Go somewhere else, bitch. Damn. But yeah, it's like, if I would have thought about that as a person coming into something, and I really didn't even look at it as you know, as she's a woman with the kid, because, you know, my mom was a single mom, and then we had a stepfather. I guess that contradicts itself, but it wasn't a real father, and so that, by my nature, like, it wasn't really a problem to me, because, you know, like, it's normal to me, so it wasn't much of a problem. And that just goes to show you as well, a lot of what you see when you're young is gonna dictate where you are in the future. So, you know, being that I didn't necessarily have my real father around, you know, I didn't look at it as a problem. I was like, well, shit, somebody that wasn't really my father took care of me. So, you know, it wasn't an issue for me to actually show love to a little kid that wasn't my son. It just wasn't a problem. But again, I want you to be thoughtful of, like, if there's something that you could take away from this video, is be thoughtful about the approach how she communicates. I have a lot of things like that. Anyway, be thoughtful about how she communicates about the father or fathers. Be very thoughtful, and just be logical. It's like, okay, so one person is one thing when something doesn't go right in one relationship, and when she has a good story, it's like, okay, damn, you know what I mean? Like, that whole abuse story makes 100% sense in terms of why a woman would not want to be with a man. It makes sense, you know what I mean? It makes sense. So that's a good selling point. But at the end of the day, you never really know the truth. And if she communicates that story from a perspective of he was just abusive for no reason, I was a great little angel and he just wanted to hit me because, again, it sounds like a really believable story, but just always know there's a reason behind the reason. I'm not saying it's okay to hit women, even though, you know, I think they deserve a fucking slap in the face once in a while and a punch in the jaw, whatever the fuck, to line the fuck up. I'm not stupid enough to do that because, number one, I'm not going to jail, and two, and dudes too, like, at the end of the day, sometimes, like, a dude needs to get punched in the face, or even me, sometimes I deserve a good punch in the face. You know, I'm not saying that it's just, you know, it's just what it is. Like, sometimes that shit puts people in their place, but you know, don't be fooled if the girl that's communicating that is simply putting herself in like a position of innocence and she never fucked up. You know what I mean? If a girl does come out of an abusive relationship, like, I always ask, what did you do? You know, ask more questions. Don't just accept the story for what it is. It's like, all right, so you got abused. How often? You know, what kind of abuse? Was it just physical? Like, did he beat you for real? Okay, cool. Like, what did you do? What was it that you was doing? And just listen. Just really pay attention and listen and see how she explains what she was doing. Like, if she was just a good girl, nah, I just came home and he was just angry about, or he was like, just, and again, these lies, man, they've been established so well that sometimes it's tough to even not believe them. You know what I mean? It's really tough to not believe them. But be thoughtful of the position. The main thing is be thoughtful of how she positions herself. Underlying, if she tries to be innocent, like, oh, she didn't do anything, and that's most likely bullshit. It's bullshit. It's like, all right, bitch, you probably got hit because you're a liar, number one, or some reason. Again, is that the way that the situation should have been handled? No. But at the end of the day, sometimes it does happen. But I also want you to think about how she replies, because how she replies and how she positions herself is most likely how she's going to put you in a position of whatever she's doing to these other dudes, or whether the story that she's creating, most likely she's going to do that to you too. It's a behavior. It has nothing to do with being truthful, logical, nothing. It's just a behavior. It's just a habitual mindset. It's a belief. It's how she's been brought up to act and be and handle life, and it's a sad thing, but that's just what it is. Another thing is pay attention to her mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, another red flag, something that I wish I would have learned at a younger age is, so red flags. You know what I'm saying? So one of them, it could be like, so her position as she explains a negative event, right? So pay attention to her position as she explains a negative event. And then another thing is, pay attention to her mom. Pay attention to her mom. So, like, for example, in my situation, like, the mom, and she did it proudly. Like, number one, she was in a relationship. I'm sure she had a few dudes, but there was really one dude that will spoil her. Like, I'm talking about take her out every fucking weekend. They will go to Orlando, stay in hotels. Fucking, she'd get all these nice watches and clothes, expensive clothes, to the point where her mom, like, kind of put her daughter down because I didn't do stuff like that for her daughter. And, like, honestly, as I started to get, I was like, it made me want to do less of it. I was like, anyway, it's just a reality. But the point is that these behaviors, like, believe it or not, they're gonna carry on to her. So pay attention to her mom. Pay attention to how her mom moves. If her mom is a single mom, it's like, why is she a single mom? Pay attention to her beliefs, how her mom looks at the father, the real father. Why is it that they broke up? Pay attention to all these stories, because a lot of it is gonna dictate how this girl moves with you. The way she is, a lot of how she is gonna be a result of how her mom is. Like, she's gonna be real similar to her main influence. She, even though, like, for example, she used to fight with her mom a lot too. She would fight a lot with her mom and argue and stuff. But just because, like, that's the fact, just because they argue and fight, that doesn't mean that she's not influenced by her mom. And that doesn't mean, like, if she tells you, oh, my relationship with my mom isn't that good and all this stuff, and that doesn't mean that she won't come out to be similar to her mom. That just means that, she's similar to her mom and she doesn't agree with her mom and she argues with her mom. But that doesn't mean that she's not going to be like her mom. That's probably a stronger indicator that she's going to be like her mom. The more that they don't like each other, it's probably because they see each other, they see the reflection of each other through each other. And they could actually lash at each other, because it's just easier to lash at somebody that's similar to you instead of accepting responsibility for yourself. So pay attention to how the mom is, pay attention to how she moves, her behaviors, and also, if she's a thought, if her mom is a thought, or if she's not, if she's super committed to a man, and how she treats this man and why. I mean, obviously this is gonna come with a lot of time, but if I could help somebody from a distance with also preventative maintenance, I'm gonna do that. Because again, there's nobody out there that is actually real. From at least with me, there was nobody that was out real with me at the time that I had in my life, that if they saw these behaviors or knew these principles, nobody actually told me that. In fact, the closest people that I could say that, at that point I had already abandoned all my friends, so my real friends that I grew up with, so that like, it was tough for me to get any suggestion from them or advice, because I abandoned them. And then the next group that I had was like mentors, but these mentors, they understand the power in relationships. So their goal was to fix relationships and make relationships happen. Like, actually, they were 100% for marriage because they understood the power of a married couple. And from a business perspective, two married couples together actually chasing a goal was very profitable. So they're pushing for marriage because of it's very profitable from a business angle. It solidifies. And they also understood that a lot of women dictate decisions, so they understood that if the woman was sold, then the man by default is going to follow. So they use a lot of these principles to connect people and build businesses. Like, at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad, like, it's all about position. Like I say, it could be bad if you're not in a position of strength, but if you're the one that's benefiting from couples being on your team, then it's a good thing. If you're making money because of couples being on your team, it's a good thing. But just be thoughtful of like, the relationships that she has, and also how she acts within these relationships. And not just that first blush. I mean, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time for you to actually see all this for what it is. But if I could at least do my part and communicate through my negative experiences, I would help somebody with preventative maintenance, like things to look out for. And if somebody would have pointed out red flags to me or things to look for, not necessarily saying you got to leave this chick immediately, but if somebody would have pointed out red flags to me and say, hey, look, pay attention to how she acts with her family, pay attention to how her mom is, how her mom behaves, pay attention to how she communicates with her grandma, her mom, pay attention to how she communicates with her kids, pay attention to how she talks about her son's kids, pay attention to how she treats other people, pay attention to stuff like that. Those are just things that come to mind off the top right now, and basically I just talked about. I would have paid more attention to it. Would I have left her still? I'd probably say no, because I didn't have enough confidence in myself, and I wasn't man enough to say, fuck that, you're not right for me. I didn't really trust my intuition like I would now. But sometimes it does take falling in your face and actually seeing people's true colors for you to wake up and see it. But again, just because that's what it requires sometimes, I'm not going to sit here and wait until I'm a finished product before I start sharing stuff that I've overcome. And that's just a fact, you know what I mean? Like, we all need that. And especially in this world, a lot of us don't have father figures in our life, so we all need, it's not like I have to be somebody's father to be able to wake them up or have them be able, like, put them in a position of being able to choose better based on facts. Again, just simply bringing awareness to you and giving you things to look out for is perfect. That's really all you need is ideas and a new way of looking at things, versus just giving one perception, which, again, the narrative that most of us have been given is very women centric. It's really geared towards like making sure that the woman's happy and making sure that all her needs are met, and what she wants needs to be given to her. And again, it's cool. Again, there's no such thing as good or bad news. Like, if that's I want a truck like that, I want a Chevy a little bigger, Chevy like that, old school too. But yeah, if that's the story, if that's the again, there's no such thing as good or bad news. Like, at the end of the day, that's a good thing. Being able to satisfy a woman and bring pleasure to her and make sure she's happy from one angle, that's a really good thing for the woman. But for humanity's sake and for long-term sake, don't lose who you are in that process. You know what I mean? Like, really start testing the chicks out and letting them know. It's like, all right, so, you know, what if I don't just start figuring out, all right, I do this every week with her. One day I'm going to choose to say no. I'm not going to take her out to dinner one week, or I'm not going to be the one to pay for this lunch. I'm going to have her pay for it. You know, I'm not going to buy her this purse. I'm going to have her buy me some shoes, or, you know, whatever it is, man. Just start putting yourself in a position of control and be logical and start questioning more than just accepting everything as it is. I know we could do better as a whole, as a nation, as a human race, but we all have to be open to it. And again, some people won't be open to it until they experience it. But I know there's a slew of men that are walking into disaster. They're walking into disaster because the mentality right now is, you know, happy wife, happy life. And there's going to be a ramification to that. There's going to be a result that comes with that mentality, especially when reality hits and you do everything within your power to keep up with these women. But as they continue to, again, we're in a performance-based model. It's a performance-based model, meaning, you know, no matter how good you are today, it's like in cells, you go from hero to zero the next day. That's how it is with women, and it's cool, but you need to know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I didn't know that, so I would constantly get frustrated. I'll get so frustrated at the fact that I'm like, yo, I'm fucking doing this and that and this and that, or I've done this and that. I've actually, you know, whatever. I read. I'm developing. You know, I'm going to work, or whatever good stuff you do. You treat her with respect. Doesn't matter, bro. Doesn't matter what you did. It's about what you do today and what you're gonna do tomorrow. And don't get me wrong. That's a good principle to live by. At the end of the day, that's a great principle to understand. It's like, you do want to continue improving, but you need to understand as well that, you know, these women are looking for that. And if you don't know that, you're going to get frustrated when you're just thinking that what you did yesterday or what you did last week is going to satisfy her. You need to at least understand that she's looking for a man that's constantly going to perform and also improve performance, you know. And again, there's no such thing as good or bad news. It's just all about position and understanding that as well. So if you understand that, it's going to prevent frustration, because you understand the game a little different than somebody that doesn't know that, you know. It could be very frustrating not knowing that simple truth, that you're being graded every day. You're being graded every single day on everything, goddammit, on everything. You know, if you're okay with that, then go ahead. You know, just tie yourself in one of those relationships and do what you got to do. You know, but at least have the education behind it and be ready. Be ready from a mental perspective. Always take care of yourself from a financial perspective and have money set on the side just in case. And don't lose yourself, you know. Always keep yourself happy by staying engaged in activities that do you well. You know, at the end of the day, there's always going to be something that you want to do that doesn't require her to be with you. You know, make sure that you always do that. Make sure that you stay engaged in those activities. Make sure that you stay engaged in those activities. Keep yourself fulfilled as well. Just as much as you want to do good for her, do the same for yourself. Don't lose that. Don't Don't ever lose it, because it's just not a good place to be. Eventually, it's just gonna deplete your energy. The whole is gonna put you in a place that you don't deserve to be. No human in this world deserves to be. And a lot of this stuff could apply to women as well. Like, I don't recommend women to just sacrifice it all and drop everything for men. No, I don't recommend that. But again, I could only speak from my angle, and I also understand that women have more support than they admit. They have a lot more education than they admit. They have a lot more understanding than they admit. They have a lot more, like I said, understanding about what's going on than they admit. And they will constantly say that they don't, and that the advantage is on the man's side, but they won't, and they won't admit the truth. And the truth is that that's not the fact. The fact is that they have a lot more support. So I can only speak from my angle and my perspective, and where I see that the help is needed. And it definitely, just by having the government on your side, as powerful as much as they are already on the side of, on the woman's side, like, that within itself is more than enough. From a financial backing perspective, to the police, the authority. If anything, if a woman says one thing, it's already factual. There's just a lot of stuff that's on their side. So if I could at least play my part and help somebody that doesn't have that support, then I'm gonna do it. But again, stay strong, keep developing, do everything you can to remain self-aware of yourself, ask quality questions, and don't ever be pressured to make any decisions that intuitively aren't right. Don't ever fall into that pressure. Don't fall into that pressure. Don't fall into that pressure. Just be patient. You know what I mean? Enjoy women for sure. Also, I have to hedge this. It's like, I talk about this, but at the end of the day, we still need each other. We do need each other from a sexual perspective. I'm still gonna be hitting on girls. I'm still gonna do my best to close. Obviously based on just reality for the last. I just gotta be honest. I haven't had a lot of good results with actually closing women, but just because of that, I'm not gonna sit here and just quit. I'm still gonna continue to do my best to keep meeting new girls and doing my best to close. But at the same token, I'm not going to act like I'm still gonna help people that aren't aware of the reality of how this game works. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a game being played, and women won't admit it, but they really are in a position of power because they understand what's happening from a psychological perspective. And if you understand the mind and how humans operate, you have a major advantage over somebody that doesn't. Keep growing, stay strong.